Everybody should silence their computers. Just to give you the backdrop, last week's reading ends when Moshe asks a question. The Torah tells us that as Moshe and Aaron are coming out from having an audience with Paro, who do they meet? They meet people entering the Jewish overseers. They're coming out from Paro, and they came with a complaint, and they said, why did you withdraw this straw subsidy? It's an impossible task to be able to meet the quotas. So Paro responded, and he said, we're going to demand the quotas, and you're going to gather the straw yourselves. So over there, at the end of Shmos, it says, V'yivku es Moshe v'yes'aron litzovim l'krosom v'yitzeisum eis Paro. The Jewish overseers, they met Moshe and Aaron, nitzovim l'krosom, and they stood opposite them as they were leaving the presence of Paro. V'yom aleim, and what did they say to them? Yirash leichem v'yishpot. Hashem should come upon you and judge you. Asher hifashtem es reichenu b'nei Faro b'nei avodov. You've actually caused us to be seen in the most putrid, negative light in the eyes of Paro and the eyes of his servants. Losis cher b'yod l'hagenu. The equivalent of putting a sword in their hands to kill us. Because the quote is, what they're demanding is so overwhelming, they're going to destroy us due to what you did. Now, who are these two people? Who are these people who met Moshe and Aaron? So Rashi says, whenever it says nitzovim, it's referring to Dosan Aviram. Dosan Aviram are saying to Moshe and Aaron that since you've come, things have gotten worse rather than better, and therefore, the word they used was we stink in the eyes of Paro and the eyes of his servants. The equivalent of putting a sword in their hands to kill us. How does Moshe respond? He doesn't say a word to them. Immediately goes before Hashem, and he says, V'yoshev Moshe l'Hashem v'yomer, Hashem, loma harios loma hazeh loma zeh shlachtani. Why did you make it so difficult for this people? Why did you send me? So Rashi says, V'im toma ma ich pas loch. If you're going to say to me, it's irrelevant to you, koval ni asher shlachtan, then you shouldn't have sent me. So what does Hashem respond? Because Moshe asked that question, Ato tireh. Asher esel lefaro, ki b'yod chazok yishalchim, b'yod chazok yigorshim. What is the Ato? What's the inference of now you will see? So Rashi cites Chazal. Hirharto al bidosai. You question my attributes. Lo kavrom. The fichoch ato tireh, also the paratire. Because you question my attributes, you will see the redemption now. V'lo osu l'malchi shiva umos kishavim loretz. But to see the conquest of the 7 nations of Canaan, that you're not going to see, because the question you asked is inappropriate. Because you question my attributes. Because you use the term loma ha'rosa loma hazeh. Why did you bring this harm upon the people? Therefore, you will not merit to take the Jews into Canaan, because of that question you asked. Okay? So my difficulty is, this is my difficulty. Initially at the burning bush, what was the first response that Moshe had to Hashem when he said, you will take the Jews out of Egypt? He turned back. Paragimel, the 3rd chapter. Yud Aleph 11. Third Perek, Posuk Yud Aleph 11. Okay? It says over there in Yud, V'ato l'chov yishlocho el Paro, I will now send you to Paro, V'hotzias ami es bnei Yisrael Mitzrayim, and you will take out my people, the Bnei Yisrael from Egypt. V'yom Moshe. El Elokim, Hashem says to Elokim, Mi anochi, who am I? Ke'elech al Paro. So if you take a look at Rashi, Mi anochi, ma'ani choshev l'dabri amlochim. This was an expression of humility. Who am I? Am I worthy to speak before kings? V'chi otzis bnei Yisrael Mitzrayim. What's the second question? V'afim choshev, and even will say, I am worthy. Ma'azochu Yisrael sheyoser lehemnes v'tzim Mitzrayim. Why are the Jews worthy that you should perform a miracle on their behalf to take them out of Egypt? That second question, why isn't that an inappropriate question? If Hashem says, I'm taking them out, what do you mean, why are they worthy? Because I chose to take them out. I mean, are you questioning my decision to take them out? Why isn't that there? It's not an appropriate question. But over here, when he said, Lomer Usul Mazer, why? It's also, if I'm supposed to be the Redeemer, why do things have to get worse before they get better? That was his question. So why is that a different question? The question before, why are they worthy of this miracle to be redeemed from Egypt? That's the question that bothered me.
I don't see that. Can you explain where does the Rosh see that why the Jews are not worthy to come out of Egypt?
No. I said not worthy. You see the pasuk Gimel. The pasuk. The V'chi bnei Yisrael. You see the pasuk Yud Aleph Rashi. Why did they merit a miracle to be worthy to be taken out of Egypt? That's the meaning of those words. Why did they merit that a miracle should be performed on behalf, and I should take them out of Egypt? I mean, if God says I'm taking them out of Egypt, that means God decided that they're worthy. So if that's the case, why are you asking the question? Why is that a question of questioning God's, how he operates exactly? Over here, why, same thing. Why do things have to get worse before they get better? Why over there, it wasn't a claim, and over here, it's such a serious breach of faith that he says, you will see the redemption from Egypt, but you will not bring the Jews into Canaan.
I mean, this seems like a more severe question, really, than the one later on. This one seems more like, who are you to tell me what I think is, who are you to tell God what he thinks the Jewish people should come out or not?
No, he's in both cases he's asking, why? Right? You're trying to understand the ways of God. Here they're idolaters. Here they've sunk to the level of the 49th level of impurity. They need an unbelievable miracle to extricate them from there to leave Egypt. What exactly is the schus? Why? That's what he says. Explain me how exactly things operate. That's what Moshe wants to learn. So he's asking the same thing. Why do things have to get worse before they get better? Let me ask you a question. Why did Moshe ask the question at the end of Shmos? The question which he asked to Hashem, he should have asked that question immediately. After the straw subsidy was withdrawn, he should have asked Hashem, this is supposed to be Gula, this is supposed to be redemption. Why do things have to get worse before they get better? Right? He should have asked the question immediately. When did he ask the question? If you read the narrative, the Torah tells us that the Shotrim, the overseers of the Jews, they came before Paro with a complaint, and they said, you realize by withdrawing the straw subsidy, you can destroy us. There's no way we can meet those quotas. So Paro says, I will not change it. You will gather your own straw, and if you don't meet the quotas, you're going to be beaten. That's what he said to them. Now, who are these people who came before Paro and they met Moshe on the way out? So if you take a look on Hey, Perek Hey, Chof, V'yifku es Moshe ves Aaron nitzovim l'krosom. As they were coming out, and Moshe and Aaron were going in, they met Moshe and Aaron and says nitzovim l'krosom. Who are these people? So Rashi says wherever it says nitzovim is Dasan and Aviram. These are the antagonists of Moshe Rabbeinu. And what did they say to Moshe and Aaron? Yera Hashem aleichem v'yishbot. God should appear to you and he should judge you. Why? Ashif ashtem esrechenu beni paro beni avod uvlos escher biyod lagenu. That's what they said to Moshe and Aaron. Does not Aviram said this to Moshe and Aaron? Judge, God should come upon you and judge you because you've made our standing in the eyes of Paro putrid, and it's the equivalent of putting a sword in his hand to kill us. So what happens? As a reaction to that comment, Moshe goes, Moshe el Hashem Yoma, Hashem, Loma Ros Loma Zeh Loma Zeh Shlachtoni. Hashem, why you make it so difficult for the people? Why are you sending me? Okay? Let me ask you, this question, he could have asked this question without Dasan Aviram's comment, correct? Things are supposed to be getting better. Why do they have to get worse before they get better? The only reason why Moshe is asking this question now is within the context of Dasan Aviram. This is already inappropriate. That means because you see it, the question should have touched you without Dasan Aviram's comment. You're framing it within that frame. Within that frame is what? It's total disrespect. It's Achil Hashem. What do you mean, Lomar Oso Zamazeh? You're only asking the question. Moshe and Aaron is not going back to explain it to Dasan Aviram. Hashem didn't say anything. He said, that's what I've chosen. But how do you ask the question within the context of Dasan Aviram's question, of the comment? Therefore, Hashem says, you will see the redemption from Egypt. You will not bring the Jews into Eretz Yisrael. If you take a look at the Midrash, why didn't it resonate until now? The answer is, if the person has absolute faith, we don't have to know why God does things. But because Dasan Aviram really rattled Moshe, and he touched a raw nerve in him, that's what brought about this question. So because it was as a result of Dasan Aviram's, their negativity and what they represented, as a result of that, that's the reason why it was considered a breach and a disrespect, and that was Hashem's response to them. Okay, that's the way I understand it. So therefore, the parsha of Va'era begins, Vaydaber Elokim el Moshe. Vaydaber Elokim el Moshe. Vayomer Ani Hashem. So over here, what's Vaydaber Elokim Moshe? Rashi, first Rashi, Diber ito mishpot. He spoke to him in a context of judgment. Al shehikshel daber lo malom rosam zeh, because he spoke in a level of lacking of respect by asking the question, why did you make it bad for the Jews? So those words are the frame of Dasan Aviram. Vayome elov ani Hashem. So Rashi says, what is ani Hashem? Neman l'shalom socha tov l'besalchim l'fonei betomim v'lochinam shilachticha. He says, I am Hashem, I am faithful to carry out my word, which I promised to the patriarchs. Over here, if you take a look in the Baal HaTurim says, Elokim, the Gematria Hu Dayon. Elokim, we know, is the attribute of justice. The numerical value of Elokim is Hu Dayon. He is the judge. Okay? Now, it's interesting. Over here, when Moshe asked the question in Chav Beis, in the previous parsha, it says, Vayoshev Moshe el Hashem. After Dasan Aviram made this remark to them and accused them, it says, Moshe spoke to Hashem, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Correct? That's the Midas HaRachmim. Initially, when he says, you will be the Goel, in what context, what appellation does Moshe use over there? Take a look.
Elokim.
Elokim. Here, the difference. Over there, when he asked the question, firstly, am I worthy to speak to kings? And secondly, why did they merit why did they merit the miracle? So I said over there, it's not a problem. Because there he's trying to understand the way of Hashem. If they're holding at the 49th level in purity, why did they merit a miracle to leave Egypt? At this moment, they have no worthiness. But over there, when he spoke to Hashem, how did he speak to Hashem? He spoke to him as Elokim. Elokim is with that level of reverence, with that level in the most formal context. Elokim. Here, when he came to ask the question, he said, Moshe El Hashem, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Yud-Kei Vav-Kei meaning he's speaking to God in a more informal. And that's, we'll see, that's Va'era. And that's what he says. He says, it's only because I revealed to you my approach, the understanding of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, because you understand exactly how to perform revealed miracles. Therefore, because of that level of familiarity, closeness, therefore you cross the line. You know, sometimes people, if you allow them to get too close, they forget who they're speaking to a degree. So because Moshe felt he had a right, therefore he crossed that line, which he shouldn't have crossed that line. So here when he spoke to Hashem, it's V'yomer Hashem el Moshe. And what does this parsha say? He says, Ani Hashem, V'o'er el Avram ve'el Yitzchak ve'el Yaakov bekel shakoi. Ushmi Hashem lo nodati lohem. He says, the Avos HaKadoshim, when I appeared to them, I only made them aware of Kel Shakai, my limited power, my power in a limited context. It was all within the context of nature, and even if it's a miracle, it's concealed in nature. You, I revealed to you, Shmi Hashem, take a look at Rashi, Iftachtem, Habri Taftochus Kulam Matulam Ani Kel Shakai, Shmi Hashem Nodati Lem, Lo Dati, Lo Nikarti Lem B'mida Mita Sheli. Nikro Shmi Hashem. I never revealed to them the true midah, the true attribute, which I'm Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, and to you I did. So I'm saying because Moshe felt Hashem allowed him to be privy to things even the others were not privy, because of that level of lack of formal relationship, he spoke out of turn. But it was only as a reaction to what Dustin Vierman had said to him. Because they had said, Loberos, like I said, he should have asked this question initially, without Dustin Vierman coming to make the remark, with this accusation that you're out to destroy us.
Rabbi?
Yes.
I don't understand the difference. What would be the difference if Hashem would have Moshe would have spoken to Hashem, the same sukkim, right after he learned of the harshness that Paro put on the Jews? What would be the difference between that and after he doesn't have spoken?
As originally he had said, why do they merit a miracle? It's trying to understand the way of Hashem. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Hashem, explain to me, I'm going as to be the Redeemer. Explain to me, although they're holding the 49th level of impurity, explain to them why they're worthy of a miracle. That's to understand. Because it's the same idea. There's nothing wrong with that. That's learning. That's learning. Explain to me, because that's the inner workings. Like we find continuously, Moshe goes, he says to Moshe, don't be intimidated by Paro. Why should be intimidated? If you're at a level, but he always needs that chizuk. There's nothing wrong. To understand why things are happening is okay. To understand why things are happening, that's okay. As being God's Navi. That's how he grows. That's how he grows as a prophet. But so it would have been okay to ask, Hashem, could you explain to me why things have to get worse, bad, before they get better? It's okay to ask that question. But he didn't ask that question initially, when the straw subsidy was withdrawn. It was only after when he said, things have gotten worse and therefore God should judge you because you brought not redemption upon us, you're out to destroy us. So therefore, because it was only a response to that question, it was within that frame, why isn't it that? Why isn't it that? To ask the question because they brought it up, that's a problem. Why does it bother you now? Why did it bother you before? The answer is because you're touched, because it seems to be that. Alan, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm
Rabbi.
listening. I'm listening.
Yes, Jay.
So, a couple things. So, firstly, the reason why Dustin and Aviram, brought out that response from Moshe, as opposed to that response coming independently, is Moshe, from a high level, doesn't want or can't tolerate Chilul Hashem. So, if he sees things, that's one thing. But if all of a sudden others are now,
Okay, good,
highlighting,
but I see the question is a good question. But as I explained it, I alluded to that. After Hashem explained, first Hashem did not answer him. Did not answer him. He just says, "You will see this redemption, not see the future redemption." Moshe, after he wanted to understand, he didn't go back. He wasn't planning to go back to Dustin Aviram and explain it to them. If it was to go back to explain to him, was one thing. He's not going back. So if he's not going back to explain to him, why don't you ask the question yourself? The answer is you have to be satisfied. So if you have to be satisfied, you should ask the question initially. You understand?
but we see it was a wrong question because Moshe
I
lost.
know, but I'm explaining to you because it was within the frame of Dustin Avriam's accusation. If I have to come to answer them, there's nothing wrong with that. I have to have an answer. But Moshe wasn't planning to go back to Dustin Aviram. He knew they were bad guys. Whatever he said to them would not be sufficient. So it's for him. It's the way it touched him. Why did it touch you now? Because they asked you the question. It should have touched you without that question.
Maybe Dustin and Aviram were just, symbolic of what other people might be.
But he wouldn't explain it to anybody. To anybody. Moshe didn't explain things to people. He did. He came as Hashem's agent, and he did what he had to do.
But he knew that question would bring a response, and then the people.
So why did he ask the question? He should have asked the question. If factually, seemingly, it's a blatant question. It's an obvious question. If I'm supposed to be the Redeemer, and this is redemption, why do things get worse before they get better? He didn't ask that question. Evidently, it's not a question which bothered him. So all of a sudden now does it bother you? Because of the accusation. So you're only coming because you seemingly you see it as that. You see it as that. How do you see it as that?
So Pasuk Chaf Gimel then, which is even a harsher response to Hashem, how does that work then? You're saying is that if he would have said that before,
but he wouldn't use that word, lo ba'reoso. He would, the way it's exactly the words. It's within he's framing it in the context of Dustin Aviram. You've actually caused us to be seen within an intolerable stench in the eyes of Paro and his servants, to bring a sword upon us, to kill us. This is not redemption. This is killing us.
And Chaf Gimel then it would be a different response. Chaf Gimel seems to be the pasuk that really seems to be arrogant.
No, I understand. So that's what he's saying. Now he's going to explain what that means. First he said, now he's going to explain that. What does it mean? In what context did you make it bad for the people? Because since I've come to Paro to speak in your name, he's done harm to them. And you did not save them.
Right.
What do you mean you didn't save them? This is the process. There's no question. What do you mean you didn't save? But again, this is only a response that confirms that he's seeing it as they asked the question.